Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Sri Anandpur Sahib, Punjab, India. I, Dr. Gurpreet Kaur Rekhi, on behalf of English Department, wholeheartedly welcome you all present here on the third day of this program. Our HOD of the department, Dr. Gurpreet Kaur, is here with us. A special thanks to our principal, esteemed Dr. Jasveer Singh Ji, for organizing this program. And now I would like to throw some light on the profile of today's speaker, our resource person, Atan Adel. Atan Adel is an assistant lecturer at the Faculty of Languages and Translation English Department, Faros University in Alexandria, Egypt. She is the coordinator of the electronic website at the Faculty of Languages and Translation, PUA. She did her master's degree in applied linguistics from the Alexandria University. She also obtained a certificate in syllabus design from Norwich Institute for Language Education, United Kingdom. Ma'am has presented various research papers at many different universities, attended many conferences, and chaired technical sessions as a resource person. Ma'am Adel will now today talk about changing trends on English language in this current session. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Professor Gubret. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you today, and thank you for the invitation. I can't thank you enough. And also, I would like to thank Professor Dinesh Kumar for giving me the opportunity to get to know you all today. Thank you again, and thank you a million, Dr. Gubret. I'll be sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Also, okay, so can you see the first slide? Greetings from Egypt. Can you see this one?
Slide is not visible. Your slide is not visible here.
Okay. So can you see it now?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Greetings from Egypt. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I would like to send everybody here my greetings from Egypt, the country of pyramids, the Sphinx. And we have also Naguib Mahfouz, he took Nobel Prize in literature. Ahmed Zouail, he took a Nobel Prize in chemistry. And I would like you all to visit us one day to get to know more about the Faros, about the longest river in the world, and it will be my pleasure. I come from Alexandria, Egypt, and it is a city in Egypt where you can enjoy the sea, the bridges, and a very delicious meal of fish. Okay, thank you, Dr. Gubret, for introducing me. So we'll be with you today, Atan Adel, assistant lecturer from Faros University, and we won't stay long. I hope I can present what I want to tell you today briefly. So changing trends in English language. First of all, we all know that human beings convey thoughts and ideas through what? Through the use of language. Cipro in 2015 said that language is a vital way of communication in any society. So any course starts with comprehension. It's highly essential to know exactly who your learners are. So number one, I have to know who are my learners. Then the teacher has to decide what does he or she want them to learn precisely. So before the teachers or the teacher decides the assignments required, tasks, activities that will help each learner to learn, the teacher has to decide what kind of material will be taught anyway and why. The teacher has to know his or her students. The teacher has to ask himself or herself what exactly the students are able to do and present. Also, the teacher has to check how will he or she measure and examine the students' abilities. Once the teacher knows all this will be done easily, and you will be able to focus on the students' outcomes or product. Special focus will be given on students because they come from different backgrounds and their levels of using English is quite different. There's no doubt that they're designing a syllabus is not an easy task at all, as it requires planning, preparing, and making sure that the material suits the intended students. It is recognized that there is a difference between curriculum and syllabus. We need to know the difference between the curriculum that I have to study and the syllabus that I have to design for my students according to their level. First, curriculum is the big umbrella of syllables. On the one hand, curriculum deals with the procedures for the planning, implementation, management, and evaluation of a course across different subjects in school or education system. So I go to school, they gave me the book, I study it as it is. It generally states values and beliefs about learning. It may be a starting point for a syllabus content, but syllabus design is another point. Syllabus is the specification of what is to be taught in language course and the order in which it is to be taught. It usually contains reading, writing, speaking, phonology, grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and functional language at the all. No. I designed what will be taught and what exactly each item will be taught. In addition to that, I followed the sequencing technique. So I followed something called sequencing technique, according to the learner's communicative needs. Following what? Following CEFR, Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It is definitely the right way to design a syllabus simply because it is an international standard for describing language ability. Furthermore, it describes language ability on a 6-point scale from A1 for beginners up to C2 for those who have mastered the language. So how the new syllables will be used and why do we need a new syllabus in teaching English language? I will share my experience with some weak university students who wish to speak English and communicate confidently. One of the reasons I didn't ask the students to get a book, so they come to class, no book, okay, to study from. Because most of weak students regard books as a material of studying, memorizing, and having exams. They have bad experience with the book. However, my purpose was to learn and entertain. So the amount of page numbers would not students down, give them the feeling of we have a book, we have to get the workbook, we have to get a copybook and a pen and so on to attend the session. Thus, I decided to type my own material and to prepare a small booklet that they don't have to get each and every time, by the way. They can share with their friends. So they come to class as if they are coming to a cafe, but they will learn. There is no doubt that I really care about the quality of the material and not the quantity. Also, it is advisable, to provide much space in the booklet. So give them space, a lot of space to write their own notes in their mother tongue if they feel more comfortable. So it's not necessarily to ask them to write the meaning of a word using English language at the same time. No, they can write it in Indian. They can write it in Arabic. They can write it in Mexican, as they like, no problem. So we have been fostered and raised up that we have to follow that we learn English and write our notes in English, no problem. At the very beginning, when you're learning English for the first time, or when you're dealing with really weak students, give them space, give them time. I used various visual images throughout the course to let the students visualize the scene and understand easily what I'm really talking about. Pictures all the time, videos all the time. Knapp, Hall, and Horgan in 2013 regard the nonverbal language as a total communication process. So it is an independent medium in itself for an adequate and accurate system. This nonverbal communication process is presented through gestures, postures, touching, facial expressions, eye behavior, and vocal behavior. Hence, I balance between using or utilizing the verbal and the nonverbal modes inside the classroom. Why? To deliver the designed syllables that I designed. Berger, 1972, said that seeing comes before words. Seeing comes before words. So visual images were used a lot inside the classroom to deliver meaning easily. The designed material aimed to focus on general topics and daily routine. So you tell me, I use pictures inside the classroom. You didn't add anything today. But the point is, do you focus on general topics? Do you focus on daily routine so they will be able to use it, so they feel deep inside that they have learned something? For instance, in the first session, students learn how to greet each other and how to present themselves briefly and accurately at the same time. More specifically, each student is required to tell his or her friend his name, age, address, nationality, sex, and marital status. In the first session, yes, why not? Faculty, also they have to mention it if they are university students, and the reason beyond studying English language in particular. Why are you coming to this class? How could you say, why did you come in English in one sentence? So here, to summarize what I'm saying for you and not to waste your time, I have some ideas, objective and reason. Please look at the schedule here. So number one, use a small booklet. Why? To avoid the idea of having much material. So students book, students booklet, students workbook. No, they don't want this. Just get a small booklet. I designed something not more than 20 pages for a whole semester. Two, no exams. Why? To enhance practice and speaking inside the classroom, and this is how they will be graded. So you can examine them each and every time by looking at them, by taking notes, by checking pronunciation, by giving them comments, for example, about SVO or subject-verb agreement. You said he eat. No, dear, you have to say he eats, okay? Because, and you start writing the sentence on the board as a model sentence, and you check his or her mistake. So it's not necessarily that you let him or her sit for an exam. No, you can examine them with taking down notes each and every time as much as you can. And it's not essential that you print the pictures colored. No, you can just get any picture, again, related to their daily routine and related to general topics. One of the very important points is to act inside the classroom. A good teacher is a good actress, a good actor. You have to act. Why? To make students understand better. The more you act, the more they will understand. Use what suits students only from SEFR. So as we said, as we talked 5 minutes earlier about SEFR, I don't have to follow it. No, I have to take it as a reference and take what suits my students, because my students are not like your students, and so on. Class A is not like Class B. Why? To make students adapt the designed syllabus to address my aims easily. Also, teaching simple materials to help students learn the basics easily. I need them to learn the basics easily, and that's the trend. Once they learn the basics, they will be immediate. Also, encourage students regularly. Okay, you have to encourage your students. Why? To boost their confidence and self-esteem. The more you encourage them, the more they will attend the class. So they feel encouraged. They don't have exams. They just get a booklet every now and then. They are seeing pictures all the time, videos all the time. The teacher is acting. Oh, I'm coming to a play, not to a class. Finally, use the learner's mother tongue, not to a great extent. You try to use the mother tongue, but not to a great extent, not all the time, because you're coming here to get a language. So why? Sometimes I use the mother tongue to facilitate what we call blocking vocabulary. Like, for example, when we say globalization, if the student doesn't know what is globalization, how would you get him a picture for this? No. So getting a visual images is not the easy way to go through all the time. So sometimes you need to use the mother tongue because this will help you more. How will students produce what they have learned? So now we're making life easy. How will I be able to make sure that they will produce something at the end of the course? Students are trained throughout the course to practice using the English language with their peers in groups and to present what they have written or discussed with their colleagues aloud in front of the whole class and, of course, the teacher. So they have to move from their place, stand up, go to move, I mean, to the board or to the blackboard or to the whiteboard, act with their colleagues, act with their friends, let the teacher hear them, discuss with them, and so on. So students should feel free and self-confidence should be enhanced, or else they will be shy to present in front of their colleagues, worrying about their grammatical mistakes or wrong sentence structure. The teacher's role is to help them and advise them to speak without paying too much attention to their mistakes. So don't stop him or her and tell him, oh, you said they goes. How would you say this? No, if he's acting, if he's presenting a dialogue or doing something for himself in front of you, never ever stop him. Don't check the mistakes now. Khalas, they sit down, you're done, they sit down. Now you can, after you listen to more than one group, you can write down the mistakes on the board and tell them, I think it would be better if you check these mistakes. What do you think about them? Okay, take their opinion. You can write the mistake and ask them to self-check it. So the teacher has to encourage them on every simple activity they present. In addition, the teacher should not move to a new topic or lesson unless she makes sure that the whole entire group digested what they have been explaining. The students have to produce throughout the whole course and in each and every session by participating actively and sharing in any task. Sometimes we design 10 topics for the class, but unfortunately you reached topic 4 or 5 and the students, they don't understand topic 2. How would you move without making sure that they understand this? Remember, they are weak and they are learning for the first time. I'm sorry. To sum up, for the purpose of this study and for language beginners, the teacher has to be a tailor in order to design the new syllabus that will address specific type of students. Then the teacher has to be a professional actor and an alert monitor to make the students understand the purpose of every single session. After that, the teacher has to be the coach who encourages beginners as if they are champions, as if they are in the club. Next, the teacher has to be like a recorder that repeats the information more than once to help students analyze what they learn. The teacher has also to be like an album that gathers visual images to support students remember advanced vocabulary words, for instance. The teacher has to access students according to the assigned tasks inside the classroom and not by giving them exams. I believe this makes them more comfortable and boosts their confidence and self-esteem as mentioned earlier. Finally, the teacher has to design a simple syllabus in a small booklet to make students more productive. Here is an example of a design syllabus for language beginners. You can start lesson 1 presenting yourself. 2 numbers, teaching them numbers. 3 colors. 4 the 7 days of the week, the 12 months of the year, the 4 seasons of the year, the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, for instance, family members or family tree, rooms of the house, articles, quantifiers, jobs, and then present, past, simple, and future. We usually teach them in a schedule, so they know the difference between the 3 tenses. And these are my references and listening for me. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now the session is open for question answers. Any discussions, please?
Ma'am, may I ask the question?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Okay, ma'am, I just want to ask if you know how to overcome students, stage phobia in front of whole class, and when he complains, when he complains that his mates make fun of him after the class. If you encourage him to speak in English in class, how we can overcome this
Yes.
phobia?
Yes, making fun of each other inside the classroom is something that really happens. But the point is that at the very beginning, you build rapport with the students. Okay, you try to be their friend. After that, if you find a troublemaker, you can talk with him alone. Okay, simply and in a very nice way with a smile. And you have to persuade him and convince him or her that this won't add for the course and we are all here to learn and I'm learning from you. Try to make this troublemaker busy. Give him a task. Let him move inside the classroom. Tell him, please, stick this paper at the end. I need your help. Whenever he does something that you find like trivial or unessential, tell him, oh my goodness, you so you encourage him, he will stop doing this. So this comes under the umbrella of class control. So you control this troublemaker and then you will manage everything else, I believe.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
May I add a point here?
Thank you.
Hello, may I add a
Any
point
question?
here?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, in every class, instead of controlling the troublemaker, because there in one class one troublemaker, in other class some other boy it could be or some other girl. Instead, we may counsel the students saying that mistakes are bound to happen. There is no point in being embarrassed. It's okay, and we are all here to learn from mistakes. So making mistakes is not a problem at all. And people who are laughing or students who are laughing, I mean, they can say like this mistake can be done by one person. You are bound to make some other mistake. So we all make mistakes. We are all one. So bringing that integrity in the class will be more, important to make them understand that all of them are on the equal band and they are to be treated equally. And the band of learning should be the egg.
Sure. May I add
Thank you
something,
so much.
Dr. Farah? You're welcome. May I add
Yes.
something also to what you have said? Yes, and this starts by the teacher, I believe, or the lecturer
Yes,
or
yes.
the professor. I make mistakes. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to apologize. I forgot to give you this. I pronounced this wrong. I need to check. So unfortunately, some teachers, they feel shy No, I don't make mistakes. No, everybody does. So
Yes,
whenever they
absolutely.
feel,
You're very right.
yes, when you give them the feeling that you make mistakes and it's okay, they respect you.
Yes.
They
Yes.
respect you.
No, also,
But
also
if
to,
you act
like
as
when
if
we are
you are
doing anything creative,
a god, no.
yes. Like anything when you're doing creative, if you add points, you may ask like, I'm bound to miss out certain points. Can you add? Bringing them onto the equal platform will actually boost their confidence, and making mistakes is
Amazing.
no problem at all.
Amazing.
Thank
Amazing.
you so
Yes.
much.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for
Thank you
giving me
very
an
much. Thank you.
opportunity.
My pleasure. My
Yes.
pleasure.
Good morning, ma'am. I have another question. Should we,
Sure.
may I ask, please? Mhm. Should we encourage the students to read
Sure.
the
Sure.
whole chapter, okay, or should we substitute it with the booklet that you told? Because I think that reading a chapter, it enhances their vocabulary, it improves their pronunciation and reading skills too. So, what is your take on this? Should we substitute it with the booklet, or should we make them read the whole chapter?
Yes, why not? Why not? But I guess not in the first time we teach the session. I mean, this could happen at the third time. He could read it aloud for his or her students because as a kind of encouragement for him or her. So, oh, I would choose
Right.
today uh, John to present, for example, because he reads in a very good way. So he's in a good example. Why don't we all hear him? Yes, and I can pick apart, not the whole chapter. I can pick apart. So again, quality and not quantity, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Manda.
Madam,
Okay,
madam,
thank you so much,
hello.
ma'am. Thank you. If you have any
Madam.
queries, you can put to the mail. We have another resource person ready. She has joined us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
Okay.
such an enlightening session.
Thank you. Is there
Madam, myself
a
one
form?
question. I'm Samanaik, madam. One question, madam. One
Hello,
question, madam. I'm
hello,
Samanaik.
or Samanaik. Hi,
Samanaik.
Samanaik.
Hi, madam. How are fine, madam. But your PPT very for this non-detailed method, madam. I understood, madam. You explaining very simple method. I thank you, madam. I understood
Thank you.
about
Thank
the
you very
PPT.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. That is that point
Thank
of view.
you. Thank you. My pleasure and honor. I'm waiting for you in
Thank-
Egypt, okay? Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you, dear
Thank
Adele.
you, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Is there a form I have to fill or something?
I'll send you, ma'am, on your personal number.
Can I please ask a
Okay. Okay.
question?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gubre. Okay. Okay, Dr. Tajender.
It was a very interesting session. I just wanted to ask, in my class, vernacular medium students are there. Basic English is a problem with them. How can I improve their writing skills?
Thank you very much for your interest in my session. Okay, writing skills. You can give the same task to all of the class, but you check it differently to them. I mean, you will give them to, you will ask them to write a paragraph about describing their room. Okay, you can print different colors. Like, these 3 students are weak, so you give them the pink one, but don't say. You give the other a green card and the advanced blue card. And who knows the levels? Only you. So advanced, medium, and weak. You give them and you ask them to write a paragraph. Okay. You would give, for example, some words to help them in the writing, like bed sheets, curtain, carpet. You could give these words for the advanced students. You give the pink students or the weak ones, you can give them bed, TV, desk. So the more familiar words that they can take and put them in sentences easily.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me add something else. In order to make your students write better, you have to make them read. So I ask them to read as much as they can, and we can give a session, a detailed one about writing.
I also
Thank you
add,
so
I
much,
mean,
ma'am.
You're
Ma'am, I have a
welcome. My
question.
pleasure. My pleasure.
may I add a point here?
Sure.
So making students write.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Ashish
All the
Agarwal,
participants
PhD
are
scholar in
required.
Department of
Ashish sir, you are required to put your queries in the mail to dear Adel, our resource person, because Tajinder ma'am is waiting for us for the next session, please.
Okay, thank you so much.
We are about to start with the next session, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your presentation and thanks
Thank
for your
you so much.
participation.
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are starting with our next session. We welcome you, ma'am, Dr. Tajinder Kaur. We welcome you, on behalf of English Department of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Shri Anandpur Sahib, Punjab, India. We welcome you, ma'am, on this third day of second session of the third day. Before we begin with the session, I would like to throw light on the rich profile of Dr. Tajinder Kaur, our resource person. Ma'am is presently working in RIMT University, Mandi Gobindgarh, Punjab, former professor of English, head Department of Distance Education, former director Center for Diaspora Studies, dean faculty of languages, coordinator IGNOU Study Center, Punjabi University, Patiala. Ma'am has an experience of 38 years in the field of academics and has been member of various academic organizations, associations, councils, selection committees, bodies, board of studies, peer reviewing panels, editorial boards, advisory committees of UGC, public service commissions, institutes, and various universities and journals. Having research experience of more than 36 years, Ma'am has 12 books and 58 research papers to her credit, more than 160 extension lectures in various universities, colleges, during refresher courses and on other platforms. Participated and presented more than 160 research papers in different capacities in international and national seminars, webinars, conferences, workshops, training programs, has chaired technical sessions, panel discussions, delivered keynotes and valedictory addresses too. Ma'am had 56 radio talks, phone-in counseling programs, poetry readings, and 3 lectures in EduSet programs organized by Directorate of Higher Education, Haryana. Ma'am has prepared study material in the subject of English literature for MPhil, MA, UG students of distance education of Punjabi University, Patiala, translated many stories from Punjabi to English, edited 4 translated works from Punjabi to English, and 2 from English to Punjabi, which includes poems of Mohan Singh, Baldev Singh's novel Andata, Ram Sarup's Akhil novel Pratapi, and many others. Ma'am has an experience of organizing more than 30 seminars, workshops, national and international lectures, training programs. In this present session, ma'am is going to talk about post-colonial literature. And you will definitely gain a lot from this session. Shall we start, ma'am? Shall we start, Jinder ma'am? Shall we start? And it is okay. And all the participants, it's a
Should I begin, Gurpreet? Hello, ma'am, Gurpreet. Should I begin? Hello,
yes, ma'am, you
friends.
can start.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really grateful to the faculty and management of the college for having thought of me to be a part of this faculty development program on contemporary trends in English language and literature. Uh, Earlier resource person, she said greetings from Egypt. Now I can only say greetings from India. But today is the day for greater and warmer greetings because today happens to be the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. I don't know whether the participants from other countries, whether they are aware of Swami Vivekananda, a great political, religious leader of India, but very much related to post-colonial literatures, about which I want to share with you my ideas or my understanding of the topic. First of all, I would request you all to excuse me for my very bad throat because it is very cold in this part of India. And cough and congestion, these are the temporary problems. Now, no doubt the topic allotted to me for today's presentation is post-colonial literature. I would like to reframe it. I would like to say post-colonial literature's a perspective. Now, my own understanding of the topic, based on my very little reading on the area. Am I audible? Uh,
Yes,
मेरी आवाज आ
ma'am.
रही?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now it is very good that my time slot, it was brought to the second session because the first session pertained to English language. And I think what we have to understand is English language with E capital and English language with E small, English literatures. Now, these are the two categories we have to understand. And what the earlier resource person was talking about, the problem of teaching English with E capital to the clientele belonging to those countries who are dealing with the problems of E small English language, English languages. I think behind these two kinds of concepts, my today's lecture, it will be revolving. That is why I call it post-colonial literatures. Now, I hope among the audience, or including me, all of us are students of English literature. And what we mean by English literature is Department of English. But that Department of English, does it only deal with British literature? That is with E capital, or other literatures which are called post-colonial literatures? Let us try to understand it. Now, in order to understand what post-colonial literatures are, we have to understand the term post-colonial. And very simple, that the term comprises of two words. Colonial is the root and post is the prefix. Now, in order to understand the term post-colonial, we have to understand so many things. First of all, what is colonial? Then what is post? And another word, what is imperial? Imperialism. Now, it is very simple, all of us know that by colonial and colonial period, we generally mean the rule of British Empire on almost, you can say, most of the countries of the world, especially three continents: South Africa, South Asia, and America to South America. And what happened, when did it start? We know somewhere in the middle of the 16th century. And as students of English literature, we know that the Renaissance period, it also started in the middle of the 16th century. When, I won't go into details, but we have to understand this historical background of colonialism. When did it start? Why did it start? And what was the purpose? Because in order to understand literature, all of us know what is literature. The very simple definition is, we say literature reflects reality, mirrors reality. And literature of the period or of a country is the product of the socio-economic and political background. Can you mute your phones and whatever device you are using? Because it is creating disturbance, please. So colonialism started with the British, you can say, Queen's desire to expand the empire. And how this expansion of the desire to rule over other countries, this desire had always been there since God created mankind. Why? Because if we read William Golding's novel, Lord of the Flies, this is ingrained in human brain and human heart to rule over others. When there are more than two people or even two people, the tendency and the desire to rule over, to grab, to cow down, this is very much there. And, this colonialism, it did not actually start with British colonialism. It had been there in the histories of the world earlier also. We'll talk about them also in detail, because the term post-colonial, whether in theory or in post-colonial studies or post-colonial readers, it is a very vast term. And it is not only confined to the desire for expansion of the British Empire, but it becomes very handy for us to understand it. And this desire or this coinage of the term post-colonial, it is related to that. Now, why did the Queen wanted the expansion of the empire? You know what happened during the period of Renaissance, the proliferation of the knowledge, acquire knowledge, and the desire to have a round of the world. And behind this, there were two major factors: the sound economy of the country, and you can say the discovery of the sea routes by Vasco da Gama. And of course, so many fleets of ship at the disposal of British rule. And the Queen asked her team of explorers to go around the world and have a look at other countries and enter into the territories of those countries and rule over them. And you can say colonize them, to attach those countries to her country, that this way to expand the territory. With this desire, the explorers through ship routes, they went to different countries, and we know how they entered into India. Different countries, the once colonized countries, they have their own histories. They have got their own histories of being occupied. I'm not going into that. and I do not know about all the countries, but the kinds of strategies adopted by the Britishers to enter into other countries via sea routes and with a kind of motive, the kind of declaration that we want to civilize other countries, because the kind of the superiority of the race, white color, and a kind of self-imposed desire to civilize other countries, that was there. But the basic purpose was the economic loot. They wanted to expand the empire. They wanted to add the resources available in those countries, because when the explorers, they were entering into other countries, they saw that they were very different in color, very different in culture, but they were very rich in, you can say, resources, natural resources. And the order was received from the queen to enter into those countries and see to it how those countries function, and how they entered into Indian territories, and how they went to South Africa, and what they did there. This has been represented in many literary texts, and I hope all students of English literature have read Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. What the British explorers at the command of the Queen, how they tortured the people, how they looted them, how they exploited them. This is what the colonizer did. The same kind of thing they did in India. But you see, whenever anybody wants to oppress you, to colonize you, to hegemonize you, for a certain period, those people, they remain bewildered, the natives. And the three strategies, this is more important, they adopt, and they have been adopting till date, you can say, in different forms. That is to criticize the language of the natives. Number two is to criticize the religion of these people, the natives. And the third is the culture. This is what they started doing in India and in other countries also, because I can see from the list, and especially from the earlier resource person, she was from Egypt. They have got their own histories and how they were colonized, but the strategies adopted were the same in one way or the other. But the basic aim was to expand their territorial, you can say, regime, and to add to the economy. And for achieving this, the kind of violence they inflicted upon those people, this is called colonization. Now, colonization means entering into the territory of the other country and settling there, and trying to rule over those people politically, culturally, economically, through financial aid, and imposing their religion. And another is the language. The earlier resource persons had talked about the language, showing the superiority of their language and literature, and the language of the Britishers was English language. And they said whatever is written in English language, that is the superior one. That is the best thing. The ideology, the religion they had, that was the superior one. And with the connivance of the natives, some of the natives, they started achieving their aim. But the human nature is more important, and from where you can say the birth of post-colonial starts, though it is a very long history. Whenever you keep on oppressing somebody, repressing somebody, dominating somebody, it is also natural that the persons who are being psychologically tortured, repressed, suppressed, oppressed, they do react, they do resist, and through this resistance against the oppressor, metaphorically, we call the colonizers oppressors also. They resist and they adopt anti, you can say, oppression kinds of strategies. And a kind of resistance started, anti-colonial struggle started politically also, and many freedom struggles in those countries, they came up. And India, we can talk about that the first war of independence from this foreign rule. It started in 1857, failure and many other things. And the role of English language, that is more important, because we are talking about post-colonialism, post-colonial literature, and the imposition of English language and English literature, literature written in English language with E capital. That was also one of the strategies. They wanted the natives of those countries where they were going to adopt English language as a medium for instruction and examination, and the teaching of English literature, that was also being made compulsory. And we know about Lord Macaulay's 1835 5 minutes, what he said there, and these kinds of strategies, they had been adopted in different countries in different ways. These are political and historical histories. Now, when we talk about the Indian context, we know the resistance came in India, and we have great leaders called Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar Saraswati, Mahatma Gandhi, and many others. They said, okay, we must send our children to these schools where English language is being taught, because we have to learn English language in order to combat, in order to count the Britishers, in order to make them understand by writing that whatever they were doing wrong. But this was used as a political strategy. And now I'm going to talk about the contribution of Swami Vivekananda also, whose birthday happens to be 12th of January. His contribution, not as a man, of course, whatever he did, that is very significant. But such kind of people, they had been there in all the colonized countries. Now, his real name was Narendra, and he was so intelligent that he had cleared his ICS examination, what is called IAS examination these days in India, the highest, you can say, post that is given, administrative post given to anybody. But he refused to accept the job because he thought, if I accept this job, I have to work for the wrong strategies being followed by the Britishers to cow down the people of my country. And he went in 1893. Now, this pertains to all the countries. In Chicago, in 1893, the World Congress of all the religions that was held. And Britishers, they were imposing Christianity all over the world. And they were projecting all the countries where they had entered to control, that their cultures, their language, their religions, they were stupid, and Christianity is only the means through which people can get salvation, and this is the superior kind of thing. And this is what was later on rejected by Edward Said in his book called Orientalism. Now, in 1893, he went to Chicago in order to present the views not only of Indians but on behalf of the world, to say that all the cultures, all the religions being followed in all the worlds, they are teaching the same kind of lesson which is being taught by Christianity. So why to impose it? So this is his contribution and his greatest contribution to post-colonial kind of thinking, which I'll be talking later on. And his lectures delivered there in Chicago, they are considered to be, I think, the major post-colonial text. I don't know whether you have ever read them. Whenever you find any time, do read them. And he has written many poems also, where he talks about the liberation, the oppression by anybody, the hegemonic control by anybody to control others in any form, that is very bad. Though basically his name is associated in India with religious kind of revival brought by him. So when the day in the morning, I thought I must talk about these kinds of things. The contribution of Mahatma Gandhi, Aurobindo, Tagore, Vivekanand, and in other countries like Chinua Achebe, Gugiwa Thiago, and and many more in other countries, how they had contributed in formulating a kind of resistance discourse against the strategies, the tactics being adopted by the colonizers to control other countries and to impose their own kind of literature. So the role played by English language then, yeah, that was very important. Of course, now whenever we talk about the British colonization, that was not all bad, I'll say. My view is this, because whatever they gave to us, the kind of liberal thinking, the education for women, and that is why we are speaking here, at least women who have entered into various professions, and how they condemned the socio cultural practices in those cultures. Their roles are very, very unique. That period was a boon also in a certain in certain contexts. But what was bad there was their policies of controlling others, hegemonizing others. And we know how the freedom struggles, anti-colonial struggles, they went on different countries, and literatures were produced in all the countries. And the phase came. It started with India for the first time in 1947. Of course, with a bad kind of example, Pakistan and India, they were created from one nation, but the liberation, the freedom from the political independence, and this kind of trend continued. And by the, you can say, mid 1960s, almost all the countries, barring 2 3, they got their freedom from the British control, political kind of independence. So this is called colonization. And the word post-colonial, that is very important. Now it is very important to understand the history, because we cannot understand literature without knowing the historical political background, or without knowing the context. That is very important. Now, the word post-colonial. This is very interesting, and it is a very, I think, I say, very complicated kind of matter. Post-colonial, very simple. The word post means which comes later on. And you must have seen that the word is spelled in two ways: post hyphen and colonial. And these days, it is generally, clubbed, post colonial. Does it have any significance? Now, a lot of study has been done on this particular issue in post colonial theories. And very simple, post colonial with hyphen, it says after. That means after the phase of colonization is over. Whatever has happened after the colonial rule is over in those countries, that is post-colonial. So in one way, we are also living in the post-colonial phase now. This is one meaning. Now, another meaning is post-colonial. Post means during, the period of colonization. During the process of colonization, the strategies being adopted by the colonizers and the resistances shown by the natives of those countries, whatever happened politically, historically, economically, changes that came, and the literatures produced, that is also post-colonial. Another meaning. And the third meaning, very important, is the word post-colonial is used metaphorically, or colonial is, you can say, the relationship between the oppressor and the oppressed, the victim and the victimizer. So how it will be, it has expanded, and how it has given us a new kind of thinking, the resistance strategies. That is also one of the meanings of post-colonial. Though different theorists like Homi Ke Bhava, Jan Muhammad, they have given different expansions of this word. And for Homi Ke Bhava, one of the major post-colonial theories, the word post-colonial means, you can say, the greatest phase in the human history of migrations, and how people are going to first world, third world country people, and the first world country people, how they are coming to the third world. There are so many ramifications. And there is a beautiful essay which I have always found to be very relevant to understand post colonialism. That is an essay by Stephen Sliman, Post Colonial Critical Theories. He says this is the term which is most difficult to define, and it is an ever expanding term, and with the expansion, because theory is not delinked from the historical, political, economic backgrounds and literatures, and the theories, they are interlinked in many ways. I could see from the list that one of the resource persons has already talked about teaching theory from through literature, and today we'll be talking about teaching literature with the help of the theory. So this is a kind of assimilation and integration. Theory comes from literature, and literature is understood through theories. So this will continue. Literatures will keep on expanding, and theories will keep on expanding. So the word post-colonial, it has, since the topic of the conference, this workshop program is contemporary trends in language and literature. Now, one of the contemporary trends is to study the upcoming of new kinds of literatures in the wake of the phase of the colonization, during the phase of the colonization, and after the phase of decolonization, and the newer developments going on till date. Now, the word post, am I making some sense?
Yes,
Yes.
Is
ma'am.
it
Yes,
okay?
ma'am. Very impressive
Okay,
lecture.
okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
Yes, ma'am.
because the
Interesting
issue is
session, ma'am.
such, where without going back into the history, we cannot talk about post-colonial literature. After all, what are these, and what do they talk about? What the literary writers they are doing today, talking about today, and how the literatures that are coming up, they are being uh, interpreted and reinterpreted, and how the literatures. Now, let me add to one more thing, what I'll talk in detail later on, is no doubt you can say it is a kind of controversy or a kind of enmity. ये लड़ाई का विषय नहीं है, colonial and post colonial. Now how the literatures written by the Britishers, and how the literatures, now by literatures, I intentionally reframed my title, because now post colonial literatures do not mean the literatures, the literature, or you can say written in ई कैपिटल लैंग्वेज इंग्लिश. ये सिर्फ इंग्लिश नहीं है. The literatures written in different Englishes, because when the Britishers, they went to different countries to colonize them, and they imposed their language on those countries. How the natives of those countries, they acquired that language because their basic language was their mother tongue. As one of the questions put by one of the participants to the resource person was, I am teaching in the vernacular language. And vernacular language in India, if you take the case of India, there are so many vernacular languages, Punjabi, Hindi, Uriya, Tamil. I don't know about other countries. There also must be different languages. So when we acquire some language, which is some foreign language, which is not the language of our you can say regions, our places, then the acquisition of that language can never be in the sense as the language is spoken by the natives of England. You get it? We follow, all of us are students of English literature. When we are taught English language, and this is the standard, we are taught the pronunciation RP, received pronunciation. And correction be, because we'll do the mistakes, because what is the yardstick? The yardstick is English language, E capital. But when it is the second language acquisition, the problem occurs. I'm from Punjab, India. I have been a teacher of English literature, English language for so many years, but my pronunciation, my accent cannot be like that of a native of Britain. My accent from my speaking, you can make out that I am a person from Punjab. Now a teacher from Egypt teaching English language to the natives of Egypt, they cannot expect from them to learn the language as per the native of you say England. Now this is earlier the Britishers, they said only the way we speak, the way we write, that is only the best way. But Edward Said, he punctured this balloon in his book Orientalism, and the post-colonial, the kind of resistance, and you can say the kind of position, superiority position they were advocating with an aim of colonization that was rebuffed by the anti-colonials or leaders, though they wanted English language to be taught, but and learned, and to write in English language in order to make the colonizer understand their viewpoint. And of course, the learning of English language, the reading of English language, it also made the people who were making anti-colonial kind of struggle, and even we people, to get an exposure of the world, to know about so much that is available in the world, and the credit goes to translations also in this context. So with the imposition of E capital and the anti-colonial struggles, many literatures came to be written in English, but not with the kind of Queen's English. We can understand it that way. They are written in English, but they are with E small. So this is one, you can say, way of understanding post-colonial literatures in English, written in different Englishes. That is why R.K. Narayan writing in English language, Mulk Rajanand writing in English language, and somebody from Egypt writing in English language, Chinua Achebe writing in English language, and you can say Ngugi Thiong'o writing in English language, Nadine Gordimer writing in English language. They are writing in English language, but with a kind of coinage and mixture of the words from their vernacular languages, making it a kind of English language. And if you know now the dictionaries, that are available in market, and the basic problem that we teachers of English and students of English faces, it is very difficult to know whether which one is correct, whether to write the spellings of color, COLOUR or COLOR. Now, one is British English, another is American English, and you look up the dictionaries now, the latest edition. Now there are Englishes. They say this is Australian English, and this is Caribbean English, and there are Indian Englishes also. So many Englishes, and mind you, now all these Englishes, they are correct. Now this is another understanding of post-colonial. So the basic thing remains that colonization was bad. The policies and strategies to control others, that was, I think, to be condemned, and that legacy of colonization continues even now, and this is one of the contributions of the phase of colonization. Now let us go to another aspect, then we'll talk about post-colonial literatures in a different context. Now, post-colonial, let me give a kind of another understanding of post-colonial literatures. Now, by post-colonial literatures, we do not mean only the literatures written in Englishes, so many Englishes spoken by different natives of different countries and written in those Englishes. But even, when Britishers, they were colonizing the natives of those countries, the literatures were being produced in their native languages also, condemning the policies and the atrocities of the Britishers. Literature was being written in Punjabi, literature was being written in Hindi, other languages, and same in other countries. Now, those literatures now are translated. Since we are talking about English language here, English literature also, now this translation into English language and from English into other languages, this has also added to the field of post-colonial literature. Now, if we read today the works by Mahashweta Devi, we are doing research on her works. Now, Mahashweta Devi primarily wrote in Bengali language, but the issues she has taken up there, they are post-colonial. What are those issues, and how her literature has become available to the world through the translation into English language? And I think the first very, very, very prominent example is of Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali, which was initially written in Bengali language. But the translation of this book by into English, it brought Rabindranath Tagore Nobel Prize in 1913. So this is the advantage of English language. English language, no doubt, till date is global language. It has served many purposes. It served a different purpose for the colonizers to control other nations, but it has left many other, you can say, benefits and other kinds of things also that we'll be talking about now. Now, what we call post-colonial literature now, it was called Commonwealth literature earlier. Now, what was Commonwealth literature, and how come this term came into existence? In 1955, there was a conference that was called Bandung Conference, and this term came into existence. And in 1964, this is very important. I'll relate it to some of the points raised by many participants after the lecture by the first resource person, and many issues floated by her also. Now, in 1964, in University of Leeds in England, a conference was organized by, you can say, the British government. Now, all the countries are free, and Britishers, they had left those countries which were colonized by her. Whether they left or they were made to leave, that is also a very interesting point. Uh, and this conference was named as Commonwealth Literature Conference. Now, you know what is this Commonwealth? Very common thing. A group of those countries which were once under the control of Britishers. They were the British colonies. We know it. And, Commonwealth Games, they are also organized. And in that particular conference, the writers writing in English, again, not with E capital, Queen's English, writers from other countries, once colonized countries, they were invited to, participate in this conference. Now, writer like R.K. Narayan, Chinua H.B., and many others, they went to that conference. Now, Salman Rushdie talks about the futility and the political motive of organizing this conference much later, 20 years later. Please wait, let me have a sip of water. Now, when those writers from those once colonized countries, they presented whatever their aim was, an association was formed that was named as Commonwealth Writers Association, the Young Writers Association. And after that, this is very important for the English departments and the teachers of English, as the earlier resource person, she was talking about how she faces the problem as the framer of the syllabus of English language to the students from a university, from a country whose basic language, mother tongue, is not English language. Now, the purpose was Salman Rushdie, after 20 years of this conference, he highlighted the political motive of the Britishers. Okay, they बहुत चालाक थे ये ना, of the Britishers to point out the difference between the writings of the people from these once colonized countries and the writings by the Britishers. They could not write so well. This was the basic motive. And their themes are also not so good. Because these writers, whether writing in English language or writing in other languages, vernaculars, they were talking about that phase of oppression, that phase of the atrocities caused by the Britishers and the economic loot, political loot, anti-colonial struggle. This is what, and the cultural kind of, you can say, confluence and collision. Many issues we read in Things Fall Apart. We read in other writers also. So they were talking about this. And the best example I can give you for the teachers and students of English literature from India, the text is Kanthapura by Raja Rao, published in 1938. Written in English language. But the language, English language, that is used by Raja Rao is not the Queen's language. You can feel there, you can say, the tinge of Kannada language. If R.K. Narayan is writing in English language, You can feel there, वहाँ जो उसमें Madras wala. And Mulk Rajanan talking about these issues in the novel Colonial Private Life of an English Prince and many others. You can have a flavor of Punjabi there. So this kind of writing was coming up, but the basic aim was to highlight the atrocities, the oppressions, the tortures, the violence, the hidden bad motives of the colonizers to make the people of this country, hegemonize them, control them, economically loot them, culturally to make them slaves, and proving their religion inferior. The you can say the inflow of the missionaries. And we read, this is a very good topic of research. There is a full debate you find in the early Indian English poetry by Madhusudan Dutt and his wife. The Madhusudan Dutt, he got converted into a Christian. And the debate is going on between him and his wife. He says, my Jesus Christ, he is that, he can do that and all. What are your gods and goddesses doing? And the wife replies in a different way. So this kind of mental conflict, dilemmas, and controversies the Britishers had, you can say, ingrained, or you can say they had infused, and they had led the Indians to think like that. So this was also the phase where they had destabilized the psychology, the culture, the religion, the language of these people. This is how, the political colonizers, they do. Now, these writers in their writings, writing in their native languages, English language also, they were doing this. Now, this is what they brought in that conference of Commonwealth literature. Now, the Britishers, they wanted to show, and somehow, America, it had got itself, you can say, free from the British rule in 1776. We know 4th July is their Independence Day, and it is never brought under the, you can say, that rubric of Commonwealth. And the result of this is very important, and then we come to post-colonial literature. The result was that these writers, some of these writers, they also discussed among themselves from different countries. They had no this kind of forum. They did not have, this online business. Then they decided, or rather you can say discussed, we also go back to our countries now, and in English departments, we introduce a new paper, a new course. Now, some of you, most of you, I hope, sitting here, I think I appear to be the oldest. In my times, I did my MA in 1978. Till that, only 2 papers were taught. British literature, English literature, that was called, and American literature. There were no post-colonial literature. There was no Indian writing in English. And you have read so many things now. That means till late 1970s, I'm telling from my personal example, then I'll tell you about my experience as a teacher. I joined teaching in 1980. What happened after that? Only British literature, English literature was only British literature or American literature. No other literature was taught. We had not heard of R.K. Narayan, Mulk Rajanan, or so. If we had read, it was only available in the market or so. This was not a part of the course of MA English. Fine. And even if this English teaching business, language teaching business, I had the paper on phonetics and linguistics as a compulsory paper in my MA. And these problems which the resource person has discussed today, they were not there then. Nobody bothered about, how the native person spoke or that. This was just taught, the practical kind of thing that was not taken into consideration. And when I joined the job, and especially when I joined the university in 19, you can say, late 1980s, a paper was introduced because this was discussed somewhere in that conference that a paper should be introduced. Why don't we introduce a paper in MA English, including in that paper the writers from different once colonized countries, because they are also writing in English, and the experiences and the issues they are discussing in their writings, they are more or less the same, because their historical, political, psychological, economic, cultural sufferings and struggles of colonization, anti-colonial struggles, decolonization, they are more or less the same. And then all of you know, then no mobiles and no emails and all, it materialized to some extent. And in Punjabi University, Patiala, I know one course was introduced in early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and not in all the universities of India. I don't know about other countries. And that was named as Commonwealth Literature. You get? Now, this post-colonial is a kind of expansion of Commonwealth, how it expanded. Now, I'll come to that. Commonwealth literatures. So you might have seen in your libraries while doing your MA or teaching, you might have read many books or seen in the library called as Commonwealth literature, Commonwealth writers. Now, in order to understand post-colonial literature, we tell our students to read those books also, because that was the earlier phase of the coming up of post-colonial kind of themes, post-colonial kind of issues. Now, this continued for some time, and many books on theory also came up, Commonwealth poetics or so. But after some time, the writers and the thinkers, they realized that this word somehow, Commonwealth, somehow does not talk or does not give us a sense of mental liberation, because we are all the time hung up, or you can say we are still entangled with that colonial hangover. The experiences and all that, so much has happened, and somehow then was decided, how the consensus was made or so, that we should rename this course as post-colonial literature, right? Now, one major distinction was, we have to understand, in Commonwealth literatures, in other university, wherever it might have been, but this comprised the writers from India, from Australia, from, you can say, South Africa, Caribbeans, and many other countries where the Britishers, they had their rule. South Africa mainly. But after that, the kind of, you can say, expansion, proliferation of translation, it was also decided that writings talking about these experiences and many more other experiences that I'll talk, because that will mainly tell us about the basic themes or the trends of post-colonial literatures and how they are expanding, that those writings should be translated and they should be made a part of English literature. Now, you must have seen that in your many universities in India, they are having a separate paper on literature in translation also. Now, if we know about Mahashweta Devi, we know as students of English literature, we know her, through the translated works. And of many works written in other native languages of other countries, through translation, they have reached us. And especially the English translation of these works, they have made them global. So works written in other languages, translated into English language, written in English language, translated into other languages, they have made a kind of expansion, and it has also led to another discipline. And I was looking at the list of the resource persons. You are going to have a lecture on translation studies, how they have helped in the expansion of literature, especially post-colonial literature, and then developed simultaneously a trend of comparative literature. Now, comparative literature is when you make comparison or comparative study of literatures written by different writers on similar, dissimilar issues and themes. Only translation has made it available. So this is also a part of a kind of contemporary trends, translation studies, post-colonial literatures also. And now this post-colonial literature, though this is I think the most current and prevalent term, but two more terms they have come into existence, and I'll share with you a personal experience. The term called new literatures. In 1989, 88 or 89, the first refresher course was organized by the University of Rajasthan, Jaipur, and I went to attend that. And the title, the theme of the refresher course was new literatures, and it was really fascinating. What are new literatures, right? Uh, and then went there, and so many new writers from different countries, the writers which are so common, and we talk about them: Amitav Ghosh, V.S. Naipaul, and A.D. Hope. Heard about them there. Somebody used to have the text, and the resource person would come and talk about that particular text, and it was those new literatures. They were the literatures which were considered to be inferior earlier by the Britishers. Now they were gaining the currency, and a new name, or you can say a kind of parallel name, that was given to post-colonial literature was new literatures also, right? And now a new term has been added to it. You must have read, some of you must have done in your MA English, world literature. And the connotation of world literature, it used to be different, like the French literature translated, other literatures translated, a kind of, you can say, combination of literatures written in different languages and countries, or written in English language, and you are exposed to them. But then a new term came, and this is still prevailing, that is called world new literature. You see, world literature, world new literature, and before that, new literatures, post-colonial literatures, and Commonwealth literatures. All these are, you can say, kind of expansion of a colonial kind of continuation, legacy, decolonization, and I don't know which term will come later on. So many things are so. I've taken much of the time, and I'll try to wind up now. Now, what are these post-colonial literatures? How do we, what are they doing? What do we mean by it? Are these only the literatures written by the writers of once colonized countries? This is number one question. Now, this is or the literatures written in other languages and translated into English, and from English into other languages. Are these only post-colonial literatures? Now, there are many writers. Now, this is a question for research. There are many British writers and many American writers who are condemning that you can say phase of colonization, or the strategies adopted by the colonizers. Are they not post-colonial writers? They are, because there is a text by Paul Scott, The Jewel in the Crown. Now he is certainly condemning them. Now post-colonial literatures, they are talking about many more things. And now we bring under the rubric spectrum of post-colonial. Number one, it is not only, of course, the colonial struggles, what happened, the economic loot. But there is another term, very important, though very common. It is called neo-colonial. Now, what is this? Post-colonial, neo-colonial. Now, this term was given by the first president of Ghana. He says, no doubt, these once colonized countries, now they have got flag independence. We are not under the sovereignty of the British rule, British Empire. But the superpowers, it is not only Britain now, China, Japan, America, and many other countries which are coming up, they are controlling other countries, not by colonizing. Now we have to understand the difference, not by entering into these countries, but another word is imperialism. When you don't go to any country, but you control the other country through technology, through economy, and through ideology. Now, this is what is happening. So we are under their domination. They are controlling us, and this is called neo-colonization. And you say another phase of that is which we are passing through, that is called globalization, liberalization, and so many other things. Or you can say ICT and multinational companies and all that. They are also having the similar strategies of controlling, of hegemonizing, and the strategies are the same. You denounce the culture of the countries. You colonize their minds, the people of those countries. You colonize, you denounce their religions, you denounce their language, and just to control others. That is called another phase of hegemonization, neo-colonization, globalization, liberalization, privatization, many other things that will continue. And Said says there is no going back. It will continue. We cannot go back. So now, how it has taken up, given us a new way of thinking. A kind of, they say, that phase of colonization and whatever happened during the phase of colonization, that has given us a new way of liberating, how to condemn wherever anybody is, whether on the basis of caste, on the basis of class, on the basis of gender, or economic kind of exploitation, wherever there is resistance, wherever you subalternize anybody, that is called post-colonial. So if we talk about subaltern studies today, the movement led by Ranjit Guha, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, and many historians. So wherever we talk about, whether somebody is controlling the other on the basis of caste, Dalit literature, the literature, gender studies, transgenders, feminism, they consider these advocates of feminist theory and activists, they consider male as the colonizer, and how they are resisting against that. Now, gender studies, we know now the voices of the transgenders, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, queer studies. This is another area of research. They are resisting against the binaries created on the basis of superiority, as white, blacks, self, other. They are demanding the equal space, equality, justice, liberty, and sameness and freedom for everybody. This is another kind of, you can say, post-colonial kind of understanding or resistance that is demanded by the people, and these are considered to be legitimate now. Now, another major trend in post-colonial literatures is that of rewriting the history. You must be, you must have read, and you must be witnessing that the writers now, they are talking about history. They are challenging the histories, the historical accounts given from a different angle. And I think this trend started with Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children and many other writers. So rewriting the history and rewriting the myths and reinterpreting. So post-colonial literatures are not only the creative expressions about any kind of domination, but resistance against those also. And this is also called post-colonial readings. Now, this is a very important point, and here I would like to add one thing more. Now we are reading the canonical text. If we are reading Shakespeare, and I think the post-colonial studies started with the rereading of The Tempest. Caliban says, "You gave me the language, the empire writes back." अब हम आपकी language को, sorry, I'm speaking Hindi and many participants may not understand it. So we are using your own language to condemn you. But we have learned many things from you. Whatever wrong you did, we are not going to do that. And rewriting the narratives also. Jane Eyre, how it was written, White Sargasso Sea, questioning how colonizers, the missionaries, they projected their view to be the only right one. This is the trend that started with Edward Said. Now another thing, and two more things I'll talk about. One is what we call diaspora. Now especially after the Second World War, or after most of the countries they became independent, late 1960s. Yeah, after that, though of course it was there also earlier also, but it has now become a kind of common phenomenon. I think ICT, information technology, and the fastest means of transportation, or you can say, I don't know, thanks to COVID, and because of COVID, we became familiar with this online business, made possible only through ICT. This has brought a kind of, you can say, to and fro movement of the diaspora, going to first world countries, coming to different countries, multinational companies, how they are no doubt bringing a kind of change in the economy of the colonizers, the first world, or you can say the developed nations or the developing nation. But somewhere, somehow, there is a kind of controlling kind of factor, and that is visible from Russia-Ukraine war, or you can say Taliban kind of business. Now, it is not only that the ones colonized countries, they were only the victim, they become the victimizer also. So this, as class struggle continues, these kinds of lust for power, lust for greed, which Joseph Conrad says in Heart of Darkness, it is ingrained in human nature, and literature especially. The role of literature is literary writing is writers of the time, this kind of quality, their dignity, their freedom. That is the kind of thinking that this post-colonial phase has given. Now, though there will be full-fledged lecture on green studies by one of the resource persons, but these green studies, eco-criticism, that is also talking about, this kind of colonization, controlling, eroding the indigenous kinds of varieties, and how what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now this is being done in different ways through pesticides and all. This and many more concerns of green studies, they are also having this kind of agenda in mind. And with diaspora studies and intermingling of many races, the questions of purity of races, the question of English language with the capital, that is now, you see, that is not a kind of yardstick for us to claim the superiority of the Occidental, which Edward Said had pointed out. So the trend of multiculturalism, syncretization, assimilation, acculturation, where everybody from every culture, every faith, every belief, any color, any gender should be given a dignified space to live and lead a dignified life. That is also the agenda of post-colonialism. And this is what all the post-colonial literatures written in any language all over the world, they are projecting. In fact, this has been the basic issue of all the literary writers, of all the religions. That is why we say there is no difference between literature and religion in one sense, because they talk about the dignity of mankind, every human being. And the last thing I would like to say is the very prominent trend is that of social media and social media studies. And I would like to show you two books, wonderful books. One is a book, The Circle, by Dave Eggers, and by the same writer, the book titled The Every, and many more writers. They are talking about the, you can say, the torture, the hell created by social media. We also use media as a means of communicating, as a means of getting connected. This is the boon. But how and why and for which purpose this social media has controlled the lives of minds of human beings, they have eroded the privacy of human beings. That also comes under, you can say, the rubric of post-colonial studies, post-colonial literature. So any literature, just last point, I know all of you are bored. So the rubric, the spectrum, the issues of post-colonial literatures, they are so vast and wide. I can say all the critical approaches, all the issues, they can be discussed under this particular umbrella term. The terms will keep on expanding, but the basic issue, basic purpose of literature to talk about, again, humanitarian kind of attitude and the promotion of this, that is the purpose of literature, that is the purpose of all the disciplines. Thank you so much. I don't know whether I have made any sense. Whatever I could understand, I have tried to share. Thank you so much.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
Thank you so
Sure.
much, ma'am. Really very
thank you so
enriching
much.
and knowledgeable session, ma'am. Thank you so very much for being with us on this platform. Now the session is open for discussion.
Sure.
Madam,
Kindly
myself,
don't ask. Kindly don't ask me the question. Just add to whatever you think can be added, because I'm a learner. I'm not an expert or so. So
But
let,
ma'am,
let
I
us
would like
see.
to congratulate you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the deep insights you have shared with all of us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
It was really an
Thank you so much.
amazing,
Let us
excellent
you also
session,
say something.
madam.
Add to whatever can be added.
Uh, it was amazing
Ma'am,
session. I just
myself,
wanted
I
to
have one
add
doubt,
that
madam.
Oh, thank you so much. It's okay. I just try to organize my thought. And I think now, another thing, very important thing, I would just like to add. Now, there are so many essays that are being written now, and they say this doesn't mean that post-colonial kind of thinking or post-colonial kinds of readings or understanding, they only happened after the phase of colonization. What about the pre-colonial literatures? The literatures written in these countries or other countries before the phases of colonization of different countries by different superpowers, what were they saying? There also, these kinds of controls were there. Say, if we talk about India, we know about many regimes in which the kings and the queens, they were controlling the people, they were torturing the people, and there were many kings and queens who were ruling very nice. That is why Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, she talks in many of her novels about these phases, what were wrong, what the things were wrong, and how they were going. So I have already expressed my limitation that I don't know about the literatures, much of the literature written in other countries. So whatever little I could read and understand,
Ma'am, I
that I
just
will try to
wanted to
share.
Excuse
add
me,
one
madam. I
thing.
have one doubt, madam.
The
Sure.
new
How
thing
many?
of imperialism, is it not that the other uh, colonized, not colonized, the
Yes,
developed
yes,
nations,
yes.
the
That is
developed
that is what
nations,
I just said.
yeah,
What
the
is this?
developed, so
Yes,
madam,
China, Japan,
huh,
America, and
the
even Taliban in other way.
the
How it
developed
is trying
nations,
to hegemonize the people. That is
huh,
colonization. That is
no,
why
no, no,
Akruma calls
they
it
are trying to
neo-colonization.
dump their wastes on the
Yes,
developing nations. So what do you
yes,
categorize that into?
yes, bilkul. I just raised this point. I cannot elaborate these things in detail because of the paucity
Madam,
of time. This is imperialism.
can
Now,
you please share?
colonization is not possible. I gave you the example of Russia-Ukraine war, which is not ending. अब हम क्या है, हम
Yes.
पहले वैसे नहीं जाते हैं. Like the Britishers came via ship routes and entered. Now Russia is trying to, उसको खत्म ही कर दो. What was that Iraq war? And in subtle ways through economy. What is this globalization? What was this Kisan movement? These movements in other countries, we call it imperialism. And
Can
Akrama
you
gave a
please
very right
can
term,
you please share your
neo-colonization.
telephone
Madam,
number
I have
with
one doubt,
us?
madam. Our
Sure.
Samanayak. Thank you very
Yes.
much for this explaining, madam, for literature. Peaceful to understand. How many type of poetry to read? What are the books for available, madam, for the poetry reading point of view, madam?
You want to talk about poetry or theory?
Poetry, madam, poetry. How many type
You
of
read, I think. Again, you see, it is not, we cannot say. This is a very good question.
Yes,
It is
ma'am.
not only you can say this particular poetry is post-colonial or not. You read any poem. Even you read a poem by John Donne, who
Yes,
himself
ma'am.
is a British writer. The way we are given the insight to
Yes.
locate in that how one particular person belonging
Yes.
to one particular gender is trying to downgrade. Now, I give you an example. Let us take a very famous poem, Good Morrow, or for that matter, any poem by John Donne. Don't you think, in certain respect, the male speaker is trying to cow down the female beloved or the partner. So that will also be a post-colonial reading. So you read anything and you are trying to locate and highlight. I don't say just try to give the evidence from the text from which position, political representation, the things are being said. Now, I always, after this exposure to post colonialism or Marxism or feminist kind of reading, I always teach the poem My Last Duchess by Robert Browning as a kind of post colonial text. Look at the Duke, how he is presenting or representing his dead wife, whom he killed himself before the messenger. How you read that? You can read any text as a post colonial text and how the things are being highlighted. So try to look at the position, politics of representation, the discourse being created, but don't become obsessed with that. Enjoy the aesthetic aspects also. And sometimes we teachers and we critics, we don't enjoy literature also. No doubt these critical theories, critical insights, they help us understand a text from multiple angles, but literature is to be enjoyed also. Now, I would like to share with you one more example.
Yes, ma'am.
I was reading in my early, you can say, phase as a career as a teacher. There is a very simple novel by R.K. Narayan, The Vendor of Spades. I was reading that and I found that very interesting story. There is a father, the son wants to go abroad. He goes there and, he does not marry the girl, but brings the girl to his house in his native country, how the father is shattered and all. That is all what it was about.
Yes.
And there are a few things which I could locate and understand only after 10 years when some insights were given to me by these books on theory, on post-colonialism and other thing. That was a phase, pre-independence era, post-independence era.
Yes,
the
madam.
father of the protagonist, who is the protagonist, the father or the son, it is very difficult to say. And these are the ambivalences we have to understand. एक photo hai, there is a photo of Gandhi.
Yes, ma'am.
Now that photo of Gandhi, it used to be there always, a photo of Gandhi and a photo of the British monarch.
Yes, madam.
They used to be the photo of the British monarch. It used to be always there on the table of the father. And photo of Gandhi, he would keep side by. Because during that phase, Gandhi had become a kind of a leader.
Yes, ma'am.
Pre-independence era, beginning of the 20th century.
Yes, ma'am.
After, some time, when Gandhi's prominence rises, and the prominence of British rule, it is under threat. R.K. Narayan shows that the photograph of the monarch, it is there on the table, but upside down. इसको नीचे करके रख देता है, but the photo of Gandhi is there. I could not understand the significance of this.
Yes,
I do not know whether this significance was there in the mind of the writer. As a reader, I could see later on, भाई अब उसका थोड़ा खतरा है, but his love for the British monarch is there, and Gandhi is still there in the corner. And after independence, the novel runs in a period of time. After India's independence, what happens? Gandhi is murdered, but Gandhi's influence and contribution to India's freedom struggle, that is prominent. What the writer does is that photo of the monarch that is shown near, you can say in an area where, all waste paper and coal, they are lying, and Gandhi is there, on the table. So this is how, this understanding of the colonization, anti-colonial struggle, and decolonization, and the coming of, you can say, prominence of the independent countries, and the novel was written in 1967. So this helped you to understand the text also. And this we are made to understand by reading the theory called new historicism, cultural materialism, which make us aware of the thing that particular symbols, particular images, particular metaphors, and objects used by a writer, they also convey particular themes. So this
Yes.
is okay. But as a teacher of English, and I am a basic lover of theory, but don't get obsessed with theory. Read the literature, but they do help us understand the things from more points, more angles, and it is very necessary. And if they broaden our thinking and basically make us more humanitarian, more human, that is the purpose. Fine. These issues you can
Yes,
keep
ma'am.
on talking and talking. Uh, Fine. Anything else you would like to add? Fine.
Ma'am, I asked if any history of the poetry books, madam, for the read.
You can read any. You can read the poetry by Dalits. Meena Kandaswamy, she is a Dalit writer. Or you read. I tell you, you read the poetry written by Kamala Das even. She was not a Dalit
Yes,
writer, but she has raised these issues. And kuch bhi padhiye, whatever you are teaching, if you are teaching in a college, the poems prescribed in any anthology, read them and try to interpret that poem highlighting these issues. Any poetry book you can take up written in your mother tongue, written in English language. Now,
Yes,
for me, I don't know which book of poems you are reading these days, which poet you are reading these days. Try to look at the issues from humanitarian angle, where somebody is trying to cow down the other person.
yes, ma'am.
उसको controlling जो है करना जो है ना, mental, political, economic, that is being condemned, then it's okay. If it is being promoted, that you have to condemn. And a literary writer, whether writing a poem, an essay, novel, or anything, cannot promote these things.
Yes,
Will
ma'am.
always talk about a kind of, injustice where it is being done, will condemn it through images, similes, metaphors. This is for the reader to highlight. Right?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Any book you can read.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Fine. Thank you.
Madam,
Thank
good afternoon. My name is Ishaq, and I am from Kashmir. Way back in 1972, Gugiba Thiongo wrote on abolition of English department. And now
Yes.
we are heading towards that. Now the voices can be raised in immediate future or in the far future, that abolition of the indigenous departments. So this cultural studies and translation studies has to some extent caused damage to the indigenous literature. Although the reading public has increased, but at the same time, the indigenous public is now preferring to read the literature through English. So, do you agree with this notion that this abolition of some, not the bigger languages, but some uh, smaller languages can take place in the future?
We are meeting for the first time, dear friend. I think if you have got this kind of realization, you should make an effort that the indigenous literatures written in any language, in any form, they should be promoted. Now, this is a wrong thinking, and no doubt this is a wrong practice also. Ki hum bhi, we people also, if two Punjabis we are sitting together, we would not love to talk in Punjabi. We would love to talk in English. You know why? This is our responsibility. And that was the aim of the 1835 minutes of Macaulay, where he said these indigenous literatures, these indigenous knowledges, they are stupid. And if going by that, any university, any government of any country is trying to eliminate those literatures, those cultures, I think that country is not going to flourish. If we go by the national education policy of India, there are new departments, and there is more emphasis on the teaching of indigenous knowledges. You know that the responsibility lies with us. You raise a voice, not only from this forum, but through newspapers, wherever you can raise a voice. And if any university is doing this kind of act, I think that is really bad. Yes, if, at least in India, this part of India, much of translation is going on. Much work is going on tribal literature, on the oral literature. We promote the scholars to go to the tribal areas, to go to the areas where people, they want to say something, they have got something relevant to say, just record that and translate it in the native language as well as in English and other languages. Of course, the edge, of course, today is of English language, but that reaches only through translation, but make it available in as many languages as possible. So what is required is the revival of the knowledge bank, available orally or in any other language, and then make it global, make it indigenous, available to everybody, so that we can make use of it. That is why the role of translation studies, right? If we are talking in English language, because most of the people here are, they understand it, and there are participants from other countries also. So don't feel shy of communicating in your mother tongue, but not with the obsession that I'll only talk about that. Now, what Gugiwa Thiago did, he shifted from English language to his mother tongue. Now, that kind of obsession is, that will remain only parochial. You make it universal. Now, again, I come to Swami Vivekananda. Why was Vivekananda chosen to represent India in 1893 to go to Chicago? They did not send a scholar of Sanskrit, because he will not be able to communicate in English language. What matters is your audience. कौन सी language उसको आती है, you are able to communicate that. So with the parochial kind of attitude, then no, only my mother tongue, I will not go beyond that. The scenario is such, as many languages as we know, we can communicate in, translate in. Let us try to spread the knowledge. And this kind of tendency is really bad. Fine? Nothing is superior, inferior. If my grandmother doesn't know how to speak in English and I speak to her in English just to show that I'm a professor of English, what is that? I'm stupid. Fine? So that kind of attitude should not be there. But that is why in India we follow 3-language formula. पहले आपको mother tongue, regional tongue, national language, international language, as many languages as you can speak and communicate and translate into, that should be the attitude. Right? I always condemn it. Fine?
Thank you, Emma.
I don't know whether I could say something you had a question about. Fine. Should we call it a day, Gurpreet?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for such a thought-provoking and in-depth expression. Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Okay, you must be waiting for your lunch. Should we call it
Yes.
a good day?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thanks
Okay,
for being so
thank you.
patient with me.
Thank you,
and,
ma'am.
listening
Goodbye.
to whatever little I had to say. Thank you so much. Great
Thank you.
dears. Bye-bye. Have
Thank
a
you,
good
ma'am.
day.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
My big thanks to our esteemed resource persons, Dr. Tejinder Kaur from Punjab, India, and Atan Adel from Egypt. My special thanks to all the participants for their patient listening and learning. Thank you all. Announcement for the participants that tomorrow's session will begin at 11 o'clock. So all are required to join at 10:45 in the morning. Thank you so much.